Hello. For my favorite personality thing presentation, I found the Myers-Briggs test super interesting and wanted to combine that with my favorite TV show, New Girl. So, starting out, I wanted to do a background on Carl Jung, who really influenced the Myers-Briggs test. Some of his most crucial ideas were adding to Freud's theories about libido and how it's more of a driving energy source, fueling psyche instead of strictly sexual. He also discussed how our values will shift depending on how much energy we're putting into different parts of our personalities. In his opinion, the main psychological functions are thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition. He believed that the eight psychological types determined by which our functions and attitudes are dominant. Part of the personality is learned, but he believed part of it is just something that we're born with. Some other contributions are influences for the word association test, which then influenced the inkblot test. He proposed ideas of self actualization and believed that focusing more on the future is a big determinant of our behavior. He also proposed midlife crisis and the personality changes that go along with that time period in our life. All of his theories led into Myers-Briggs type indicator, which was developed by Catherine Cook Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers in the 1920s. These identifications are based on the eight psychological types. It's now the most popular personality test and is taken by more than 2 million people every year. The different categories are comparing extroverted versus introverted people, sensation versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, and judging versus perceiving. Now, getting into the main topic, the show New Girl. I hope you've seen it. If you haven't, would highly recommend. But a little background: it's a comedy sitcom based around a girl who's moving in following a breakup with three guys that she didn't know. Similar to Friends or How I Met Your Mother. And I believe that all of those shows are really successful because of the personalities of the characters. Starting off, Jessica Day, main character. Well, they all are. But she's an ENFP. She's extroverted, intuitive, feeler, and a perceiver. She's definitely outgoing, very quirky, very bubbly, and I just included quotes from each of the characters as evidence for their character types. And these are all personality types that I am determining for them based on the categories in the Myers-Briggs test. So she says, I break for birds, I rock a lot of polka dots, I've touched glitter in the last 24 hours, and that does not mean I'm not strong, smart, and tough, which is a great representation of her character. Next up is Winston Bishop, an INFP, in my opinion. He's a homebody, very weird, very funny. He's introverted, intuitive, more of a feeler, and a perceiver. He says, Saturday's a day for sleeping in, and damn it, you will not take that away from me. Have I ever made a decision in my life? Are we all just living inside the mind of a giant? Relatable. Ernie, or Coach, is another of the roommates who I think is an ESTP. He's extroverted, more of a sensor, a thinker, and a perceiver. He's very energetic, very competitive, definitely the most traditionally masculine of the roommates. In a rather brutal pep talk, he tells Winston, you can do this, Winston, because there's nothing to be afraid of. You've hit rock bottom, man. This is the worst it's going to get. And when moving out, he says memories are not essential. That's what makes the system work. Then we have Schmidt, who is an ESTJ. He has a very big personality, very flamboyant. He's very picky, likes everything in a precise way and exactly his way. So he's extroverted, a sensor, a thinker, and a judger. He claims that befriending Kanye is the most efficient way for me to jump social strata. Now all I have to do is meet him and then dazzle him to the point where we're each other's last call before bed. And a very fitting description of his personality from Schmidt. Words that have been used, words that have never been used to describe Schmidt: spontaneous, flexible, easygoing. And last but not least, my personal favorite is Nick Miller, an INTP. He is extremely grumpy, as you can tell from his signature face. He's disorganized, but is a very creative mind. He ends up being a writer. So I consider him introverted, intuitive, thinker, and a perceiver. He thinks it's perfectly fine to watch TV all day. He says, I've never been an inspiration before. I don't like this much responsibility. And if we needed to talk about feelings, they would be called talkings. So I just found this really interesting after looking further into the Myers-Briggs test and all the categories and how that test has become so successful in categorizing people, and tried to apply all of that into the characters that I know pretty well from rewatching the show about 10 times. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed.